I used to think love meant safety. Now I know love can also mean blindness. Because sometimes the person who says, "I love you," is the same one who destroys your peace in silence. It happened on a Sunday morning. The sunlight slipped through our bedroom curtains like liquid gold, painting everything in that lazy, peaceful glow that made me believe our life was perfect. Daniel was in the shower. His phone was on the nightstand, buzzing quietly. One message, from someone named Elle at first. I didn't mean to look, but the screen lit up again, and the preview showed enough to burn itself into my memory forever. Last night was amazing. I miss you already. For a moment, my breath just stopped. Everything in the room, the ticking clock, the sound of the shower, disappeared into a low, roaring silence. I picked up his phone. My fingers trembled as if they already knew the truth before my mind did. When the water stopped, I dropped the phone back exactly where it had been and pretended to be asleep. He walked out, towel around his waist, humming our song. He smiled at me like nothing was wrong, and that's when I felt it. That sharp twist in my chest that whispered, "He's lying." He's been lying for a long time. I made breakfast like nothing had happened. Scrambled eggs, toast, his favorite coffee, all part of the act. He kissed my cheek, called me baby, and told me he'd be home late. I smiled back and said, "Don't work too hard." It was almost funny. How easy it was to fake love when your heart is breaking. As soon as he left, I grabbed his phone. But the message was gone. Deleted. He had erased it, like it never existed. But I knew what I saw. I opened the chat with Elle. And there it was. Weeks of messages, flirting, inside jokes, secrets, and photos. The kind of photos you don't send to a coworker. The kind of photos that stab you quietly behind your ribs. But then I saw something that froze my blood. A message signed Lei, and the contact name expanded to show Laura, my best friend. The world blurred for a second. My best friend, the woman who had been in our home 100 times, laughing, helping me plan our anniversary, crying on my shoulder about her own failed relationships. She was the one he was texting. "I miss you already too." I remember dropping his phone on the table, hearing my own voice whisper, "No, no, no, no." And then I laughed, that hysterical kind of laugh that sounds like crying in reverse. Because when betrayal comes from both sides, there's no one left to scream to. That night I pretended everything was fine. "We watched a movie." He laughed. I smiled. My skin crawled every time his hand brushed mine. When he went to bed, I stayed up. I needed proof, something undeniable. I needed to see them together. So I messaged Laura. "Hey, can we grab coffee tomorrow? I've missed you," she replied instantly. "Of course. Can't wait." My stomach turned. Her heart emoji felt like poison. The next day, I met her at our usual cafe. She looked radiant, glowing in a way I hadn't seen in months. And when I said Daniel's name, she blushed. I asked about her weekend, pretending I didn't already know. And she said it so easily. "I was with someone new." "You don't know him." I smiled, nodded, and ordered another coffee. But deep down, a part of me already knew the truth. She wasn't lying to protect herself. She was lying to protect him. That night, I checked Daniel's phone again. This time I took screenshots. Every message, every picture, every lie. I saved them all in a hidden folder titled Truth. The next few days felt like living in a movie I didn't remember agreeing to star in. Every smile felt rehearsed. Every kiss, a scene from a script he didn't know I'd already read. Daniel had no idea I'd seen the messages. He still kissed my forehead before work, still texted me, "I love you" in the middle of the day, still called me his everything. And maybe that's what hurt most. He wasn't sorry. He wasn't even cautious. He was comfortable in the lie. That night, when he came home, he dropped his keys on the counter and said, "Laura's coming over later. She wants to borrow your old camera." It felt like the air left the room. He said it so casually, like it meant nothing, like her name didn't already taste like betrayal on my tongue. I forced a smile. "Sure, I'll get it ready." When she arrived, my pulse wouldn't stop pounding. She hugged me, and whispered, "You look tired, babe." "Everything okay?" I wanted to scream. But instead, I just nodded and said, "Yeah." Everything's fine. They both laughed at something later. A private joke, shared glances, that unspoken spark between two people who think they're being clever. And I realized something. They weren't just lying to me. They were lying together. That bond, that shared guilt, it's stronger than most forms of love. So I decided, if they wanted to play games, I'd play one too. The next morning, I started planning. Not revenge, not yet, just clarity. If I confronted them with nothing but anger, they'd deny everything. If I wanted truth, I'd have to make them expose themselves. I started small. A hint here, a pause there. I asked Daniel about his late nights, and he answered too fast, too smooth. I told you, babe, meetings? You know how it is. Sure. Meetings that end with, I miss you already. I smiled and said, of course, I trust you. That's when his eyes flickered. Just a second, a tiny nervous spark. And I knew he felt the shift. I started sending Laura texts again, pretending to rebuild our friendship. I wanted her close, wanted her to underestimate me. Because you can't fight a ghost. You have to make the ghost think it's safe to haunt you. Over the next week, I set the trap. I planned a dinner, just the three of us, for old time's sake. Daniel thought it was his idea. Laura thought I was trying to make peace. Neither knew I'd printed every screenshot. Neither knew I'd recorded his phone the last time she called. Neither knew I'd memorized the sound of their guilt. The night before the dinner, I looked at myself in the mirror for a long time. My reflection didn't look weak anymore. She looked calm, dangerously calm. I whispered to myself, you don't have to scream to destroy a liar. You just have to let him hear his own words. The night arrived. I cooked. Their favorites, of course. Chicken with lemon butter, roasted potatoes, red wine. Familiar comfort. The taste of home, served with poison they couldn't see. When Laura arrived, she brought flowers. When Daniel opened the door for her, they avoided each other's eyes. That told me everything. They were already afraid. We sat at the table. The conversation started awkwardly, then slowly turned into laughter. The fake kind. The kind that hides sweat on your palms. Halfway through dinner, I placed my phone on the table. Unlocked. The screen showed one of the messages. You make me feel alive again. Daniel's hand froze mid-air. Laura's fork clinked against her plate. I watched their faces drain of color. Funny, I said softly. Such beautiful words. But they weren't written for me. Silence. You could hear the air crackle. Daniel stammered first. Wait, I can explain. I cut him off. Don't. You'll only lie again. And you're both so tired of lying, aren't you? Laura's eyes filled with tears. I didn't mean to. I smiled. A real one, finally. You did. You both did. But it's okay. Because tonight you don't get to explain. You get to listen. I opened the next message. Then another. Then another. I read them out loud, slowly, one by one. Every I miss you. Every I can't wait to see you again. By the time I finished, the room was dead silent. Daniel's face was pale. Laura couldn't look up. I leaned back in my chair and whispered, I used to think love meant forgiving the worst parts of someone. Now I know love means forgiving yourself for walking away. I stood up, grabbed my keys and walked out, leaving them sitting there in the ruins they built together. Silence has a sound. It's heavy, sharp, and somehow alive, especially when it follows the truth. I didn't cry that night. I didn't scream. I just drove, past the streetlights, past the memories, past everything that still smelled like him. When I finally stopped, I was outside my sister's apartment. She opened the door, saw my face, and didn't ask a single question. She just hugged me, and for the first time in weeks, I could breathe. Lying on her couch that night, I kept hearing the echoes of their voices. The lies, the laughter, the betrayal. But beneath all that, there was something else. Relief. Because when someone shows you who they truly are, you stop fighting to love the version you invented. The next few weeks were strange. My phone stayed silent, but my mind didn't. Every notification made me flinch. Every dream ended in the sound of that message tone, Daniel texted. Dozens of times. Please, let's talk. You misunderstood. I love you. I made a mistake. Mistake. Funny word, isn't it? You don't accidentally type, I miss you already. You don't mistakenly delete an entire chat thread. I never replied. Instead, I started journaling, writing down everything I'd ignored, the small red flags, the gut feelings, the nights he worked late. When you put the truth on paper, it becomes less of a ghost and more of a mirror. One night, I opened social media. Laura's profile was gone, deleted, coward. Daniel's, on the other hand, was full of pictures of him starting over, gym selfies, motivational quotes, all surface, no soul, and I realized people like him never face what they've done. They just move on to the next person who hasn't learned their pattern yet. Healing isn't cinematic. It's quiet, messy, and slow. It's doing dishes alone. It's deleting old playlists. It's sitting in silence until it feels peaceful again instead of empty. I started small. Morning walks, a new haircut, cooking just for myself. Every step felt like peeling away the version of me who had settled for less. One afternoon, I walked into a bookstore. The owner, an older woman with kind eyes, asked if I was looking for something special. I said, maybe a story that doesn't end with heartbreak. She smiled. Then you'll have to write that one yourself. So I did. Every night I wrote about love, lies, forgiveness. And slowly, I became the narrator of my own story again. Daniel tried calling one last time. I didn't answer. Instead, I saved his contact as the lesson, because that's all he ever was. Months later, I wrote a letter, not to him, but to the woman I used to be. I wrote, "You are not the things he said to keep you quiet. You are not the love he took for granted. You are the silence after the storm, calm, strong, and finally free." I folded the letter and kept it in my wallet, a reminder of how far I'd come. People sometimes ask if I'd ever forgive him, and I always say the same thing. I already did. Forgiving him set me free. Forgetting him keeps me free. That night I stood by my window. The city lights blinked like quiet applause. Somewhere out there, someone was reading a message that would break their heart, and I wished I could tell them, "You'll survive, you'll rebuild, and one day, you'll thank the heartbreak for showing you your own strength." Because love doesn't end with betrayal. It begins again, in the moment you choose yourself. If you like this story, I've got more just like it. Full versions, deeper emotions, all waiting for you on my YouTube channel, StudioStoryTell. Because every broken heart tells a story, and every story can heal someone.